I stood frozen in the doorway of my study, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might break through my chest. What I had just witnessed wasn't supposed to be possible. Not in my home, not in my family. 2 weeks before my daughter's wedding, I had caught my wife Rebecca locked in a passionate embrace with Connor, my daughter's fiancé, right there in our living room. The worst part? When I tried to tell my daughter Emily what I'd seen, my younger son Nathan pulled me aside and whispered something that made my blood run cold. "Dad, I know this sounds crazy, but I've been gathering evidence. There's something about Mom you need to know. Something that goes back 28 years. Let me start from the beginning, because the truth I uncovered was far more devastating than simple infidelity. My name is Michael Harrison. I'm 63 years old, and until 2 weeks ago, I thought I had built the perfect life. I've been married to Rebecca for 32 years. We have 2 children, Emily, who's 29, and about to marry what I thought was a wonderful young man named Connor Davidson, and Nathan, who's 25 and just finished his MBA at the University of Toronto. I run a successful architectural firm here in Vancouver. Rebecca has been a real estate agent for the past 15 years. We live in a beautiful home in Kitsilano, the kind of house I used to dream about when I was a young architect, sketching designs in my cramped apartment. From the outside, we were the family everyone envied. The day everything shattered was a Tuesday afternoon in early October. I had come home early from the office because I'd forgotten some blueprints I needed for a client meeting the next morning. Rebecca's car was in the driveway, which was odd because she had told me that morning she'd be showing properties in Richmond all day. Connor's silver Audi was parked on the street. I remember thinking it was nice that Connor had stopped by. He and Emily had been together for 3 years, and I genuinely liked the guy. He was an investment banker at a firm downtown, charming, successful, and he treated my daughter like she was the only woman in the world, or so I thought. I walked through the front door quietly, not wanting to disturb anyone if they were having a conversation. That's when I heard it, a low laugh from the living room, Rebecca's voice in a tone I hadn't heard in years, playful and intimate. Then I heard Connor's voice, smooth and confident. "We have to be more careful. Emily's been asking questions." My stomach dropped. I moved toward the living room, each step feeling like I was walking through concrete. When I reached the doorway, I saw them. Rebecca, my wife of 32 years, was pressed against Connor on our couch. His hands were in her hair, and they were kissing with an intensity that left no room for misinterpretation. This wasn't a friendly peck. This was passionate, familiar, wrong. I must have made a sound because they both jumped apart. Rebecca's face went white. Connor stood up quickly, adjusting his shirt, his expression cycling through shock, fear, and then something I couldn't quite place. Calculation, maybe. "Michael," Rebecca breathed, her hand flying to her throat. "This isn't what it looks like." That line, that ridiculous, cliché line that every cheater uses when they're caught red-handed. Something inside me snapped. "Really?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. "Because it looks like you're having an affair with our daughter's fiancé 2 weeks before her wedding." Connor opened his mouth to speak, but I held up my hand. "Get out of my house. Now." He grabbed his jacket and left without another word, but not before exchanging a look with Rebecca that made my skin crawl. There was something there, something more than just panic at being discovered. Rebecca tried to approach me, tears streaming down her face. "Michael, please, let me explain. It was a mistake. It just happened. It didn't mean anything." I stepped back from her. "How long?" "What? How long has this been going on?" I could barely recognize my own voice, cold and distant. She hesitated, and that hesitation told me everything. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was sustained, deliberate betrayal. 6 months, she finally whispered. 6 months. Half a year of lies. Half a year of sitting at dinner tables together, planning a wedding, celebrating holidays, while my wife was sleeping with the man my daughter loved. I felt sick. "I need to tell Emily," I said. Rebecca's face changed instantly. The tears stopped as if she'd turned off a faucet. "You can't. You'll ruin everything. The wedding, her happiness, our family. You already ruined it," I said. "I'm telling her tonight." I left the house before she could respond, driving aimlessly through Vancouver's streets until I found myself at Stanley Park. I sat in my car overlooking the water, trying to process what I'd seen. How was I going to tell Emily? How do you tell your daughter that her mother and her fiancé have been betraying her for half a year? When I finally went home that evening, Rebecca was gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Gone to my sister's. Please don't say anything to Emily until we can talk. You don't understand the whole situation. What whole situation? What could possibly justify what I'd seen? The next morning, I called Emily and asked her to meet me for lunch. She arrived at our usual cafe on West 4th, radiant and excited, her wedding binder tucked under her arm. "Dad, I'm so glad you called," she said, sliding into the booth across from me. "I wanted to show you the final seating chart. We moved Aunt Linda's table closer to the dance floor like you suggested." Looking at her happy face, I almost lost my nerve. But I had to tell her. She deserved to know. "Sweetheart, we need to talk about something serious," I began. Her smile faded. "What's wrong? Is Mom okay?" "Emily, there's no easy way to say this. Yesterday, I came home early, and I found your mother with Connor. They were together, kissing, and when I confronted them, your mother admitted they've been having an affair for 6 months." I watched the color drain from my daughter's face. She stared at me like I'd just told her the sky was green. "That's not funny, Dad. I wish it were a joke. I saw them with my own eyes." She shook her head violently. No, you're wrong. Connor loves me. We're getting married in 2 weeks. Mom wouldn't do that. You must have misunderstood what you saw. Emily, please listen to me. I know this is hard to hear, but stop." She stood up abruptly, her wedding binder falling to the floor. "I don't know what you think you saw, but you're wrong. Connor and I are fine. Mom is my best friend. This is insane. Sweetheart, did you and Mom have a fight? Is this some kind of sick way to get back at her?" Her voice was rising, and people were starting to stare. "Emily, I would never lie to you about something like this. You're trying to ruin my wedding." Tears were streaming down her face now. "I can't believe you would do this to me. Connor warned me you might try something like this. That stopped me cold." "What did you just say?" "Connor said you've been acting strange lately, that you've been drinking more, that you might be having some kind of breakdown." I didn't want to believe him, but now I see he was right. The manipulation was breathtaking. They had prepared for this. They had laid groundwork to make me look unstable, so that if I ever discovered them, Emily wouldn't believe me. "Emily, please, just talk to Connor. Ask him directly. Watch his face when you ask him." "I don't need to ask him anything because nothing happened." She grabbed her binder and her purse. "I need some space from you right now, Dad. Don't call me." She walked out of the cafe, leaving me sitting there feeling like the world had tilted on its axis. My daughter, my little girl, didn't believe me. Worse, she thought I was having a mental breakdown. I drove home in a daze. When I walked through the door, I found Nathan in the kitchen making coffee. He took one look at my face and set down his mug. "What happened?" he asked. I told him everything. About catching Rebecca and Connor, about trying to tell Emily, about her reaction. Nathan listened in silence, his jaw getting tighter with each detail. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "Dad," he finally said, "I need to tell you something. I've known about Mom and Connor for about a month." "What? Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wasn't sure at first, and I needed to be absolutely certain before I said anything. But I've been gathering evidence. And Dad, there's more to this story. Something that goes back way before Connor and Emily even met." He pulled out his laptop and opened a folder. "About a month ago, I was at Mom's office dropping off some paperwork for her. She'd left her personal laptop open. I wasn't snooping, I swear, but I saw an email notification pop up. It was from Connor, and the preview said something like, 'I can't wait to see you again, Mom.'" "Mom?" My head was spinning. That's what I thought too. A typo, maybe? But I couldn't shake it. So I started paying attention. I noticed Mom would get texts and smile in this weird way, then quickly hide her phone. She'd make excuses to go out at odd times. And Connor was always around, even when Emily wasn't. Nathan clicked on a file. So I did something I'm not proud of. I installed tracking software on Mom's phone when she left it on the counter one day, and I've been following her. He pulled up a series of photos, timestamps, location data, Rebecca and Connor meeting at hotels, entering together, leaving together hours later. Text messages Nathan had recovered through cloud backup. The evidence was damning and extensive. "But here's where it gets really strange," Nathan said, his voice dropping. I found some old documents in Mom's file cabinet when I was looking for my birth certificate last week. There were letters, photos, legal documents. Dad, Connor isn't just some random guy Emily met. He's connected to Mom's past in a way that's going to blow your mind. He pulled out a faded photograph. A young Rebecca, maybe 27 or 28 years old, holding a baby, on the back, written in Rebecca's handwriting. Connor, 3 months old. My beautiful secret. The room tilted. What are you saying? Dad, I think Connor is Mom's biological son. A son she had before you two met and gave up for adoption. The words hung in the air like a bomb waiting to explode. It couldn't be true. Could it? Look at this, Nathan said, pulling up a birth certificate. Connor James Davidson, born in Toronto, Ontario, 28 years ago. Mother, Rebecca Ann Mitchell. Father, unknown. Rebecca's maiden name was Mitchell. I cross-referenced the adoption records I could access. It's sealed, but the dates line up perfectly. Connor was born 6 months before you and Mom met. She gave him up for adoption when he was 3 months old. I slumped into a chair, my mind reeling. So when Connor met Emily, he already knew who Mom was. This wasn't coincidence, Dad. He sought Emily out. He planned this. The full scope of the betrayal crashed over me. Connor wasn't just some man having an affair with my wife. He was her son, reconnecting with her and conducting some kind of twisted relationship that had crossed every possible boundary. And Emily, my innocent daughter, was caught in the middle of this nightmare, completely unaware. We need more proof, I said, my voice hollow. Emily won't believe this based on documents alone. We need concrete evidence that she can't deny. Nathan nodded. I've been tracking Mom's movements. Tomorrow afternoon, she's meeting Connor at the Sutton Place Hotel downtown. I think if we can document that meeting, get clear evidence of what they're doing, we'll have what we need. I spent that night unable to sleep, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how my life had become something out of a nightmare. Rebecca came home late, slipping into the guest room without trying to talk to me. The woman I'd shared 32 years with was a stranger. The next afternoon, Nathan and I sat in Nathan's car in the parking garage of the Sutton Place Hotel. I felt ridiculous, like I was in a bad detective movie. But this was my reality now. At 2:15 p.m., Rebecca's BMW pulled into the garage. She got out, checked her appearance in the reflection of her car window, and walked toward the elevator. 5 minutes later, Connor's Audi arrived. He followed the same path. Room 1847, Nathan said, checking his phone. I hacked the hotel reservation system. The room is booked under a fake name, but it's paid for with a credit card I traced back to Connor. We waited 30 minutes. Then Nathan pulled out a professional-looking camera with a long lens. I borrowed this from my friend who does photography, he explained. Another hour passed. Then, just as the sun was starting to set, Rebecca and Connor emerged from the hotel together. Nathan's camera clicked rapidly, capturing everything. Connor's hand on Rebecca's back, the way they walked close together. A kiss before they got to their cars, tender and familiar. But Nathan captured something else, too. As they were saying goodbye, Rebecca handed Connor what looked like documents. He glanced at them, then pulled her into another embrace, this one looking almost parental. It was strange and unsettling. Did you see that? Nathan murmured. The way they hugged just then? That wasn't romantic. That was different. We followed them separately. Connor went to Emily's apartment. My chest tightened, thinking about him walking into my daughter's home after spending hours in a hotel room with her mother. That evening, Nathan spent hours organizing all the evidence into a comprehensive file. Photos, location data, the birth certificate, the old letters and photos from Rebecca's past. It was overwhelming and damning. We need to tell Emily in person, I said. Show her everything at once, so she can't deny it or run away before she sees the full picture. Nathan agreed. What about Mom? I'll confront her first. She needs to know that we know everything, including about Connor being her biological son. Maybe she'll finally tell the truth. The next morning, I waited until Rebecca came downstairs for coffee. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. Michael, can we please talk? She started. I know, I said quietly. She froze. You know what? I know about Connor. I know who he really is. The coffee mug slipped from her hand, shattering on the tile floor. She didn't move to clean it up. How? She whispered. Nathan found the documents, the birth certificate, the photos. Rebecca, how could you? How could you not tell me you had a son? How could you let Emily get involved with him? She sank into a chair, her face in her hands. I didn't know at first. I swear, Michael, when Emily first brought Connor home 3 years ago, I had no idea who he was. I gave him up for adoption 28 years ago. I never knew what happened to him, who adopted him, where he ended up. I tried to move on, to forget. But you figured it out eventually. About a year after they started dating, Connor pulled me aside at a family dinner. He told me he'd known from the start. He'd been searching for his birth mother his whole life, and when he finally found me, he discovered I had a daughter, Emily. He didn't plan to fall in love with her, but he did. He said it was fate. Fate? I could barely contain my rage. He's your son, Rebecca, your biological son, and you let him date your daughter, his half-sister. They're not blood-related through you, she said desperately. Connor is from before we met. Emily is yours, not his. Technically, they're only related through me. Listen to yourself. You sound insane. I was shaking. Even if they're not biologically related through me, this is still wrong on every level. The emotional betrayal, the deception, the twisted family dynamics. How could you justify this? I couldn't tell anyone. Don't you see? If the truth came out, Emily would be devastated. Connor would lose her. I would lose both of them. I thought if I could keep the secret, everyone could be happy. And the affair? My voice was ice. How does sleeping with your biological son fit into everyone being happy? She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. It started about 6 months ago. Connor was struggling with the secret. He wanted to tell Emily the truth, to have a real relationship with me as his mother. But I was terrified. We started meeting to talk about it, to figure out what to do. And somewhere along the way, the lines got blurred. I know how it sounds. I know it's wrong. But Michael, I missed 28 years of his life. When we were together, I felt like I was reclaiming some of that lost time. That's not how parenting works, I shouted. You don't reclaim lost time by sleeping with your child. That's not love, Rebecca. That's sick. I know, she sobbed. I know it's wrong. I've known it was wrong the whole time. But I couldn't stop. Every time we agreed it was the last time, we'd find ourselves back together. It became like an addiction. I stared at this woman who I thought I knew, and I saw a complete stranger. Someone capable of deception and manipulation and crossing boundaries I didn't even know existed. Emily deserves to know the truth, I said. All of it. Please, Michael. Please don't tell her. It will destroy her. The wedding is in less than 2 weeks. Her whole life is planned around Connor. If you tell her, you'll break her heart. You already broke her heart. She just doesn't know it yet. And I'm going to make sure she knows before she marries her half-brother, because that's what any father would do. I called Emily and asked her to come over that evening. I told her I had something important to show her, and that Nathan would be there too. She reluctantly agreed, probably thinking I was going to apologize for what she saw as my false accusations. When Emily arrived that evening, Connor was with her. Of course he was. He wasn't going to let her face this alone, knowing what might be revealed. Dad, whatever this is, can we make it quick? Emily said, her voice cold. We have a cake tasting in an hour. Sit down, sweetheart, I said gently. Both of you need to see this. Nathan set up his laptop on the coffee table. I watched Connor's face carefully. He knew something was coming. Emily, I need you to watch this with an open mind, I said. Everything we're about to show you is documented and verified. We started with the simplest evidence. The photos from the hotel. Time-stamped, clear, undeniable. Rebecca and Connor entering together. The long gap before they emerged. The kiss. The intimate body language. Emily's face went pale. No, these are fake. You photoshopped these. The hotel has security footage that corroborates the timing, Nathan said quietly. I can request it through legal channels, if you need that too. Connor sat frozen, his hands clenched on his knees. There's more, I said. Emily, this is going to be very difficult to hear, but you need to know the truth about who Connor really is. We showed her the birth certificate, the old photos. The letters Rebecca had written to her newborn son before giving him up for adoption. Documents from the adoption agency. Emily's hands shook as she held the photograph of young Rebecca with baby Connor. I don't understand. What are you saying? Connor is your mother's biological son, Nathan said. She gave him up for adoption 28 years ago, 6 months before she met Dad. Emily turned to Connor, her face a mask of confusion and growing horror. Is this true? Connor's silence was answer enough. Tell me, Emily screamed. Tell me this is all some elaborate lie. Tell me you didn't know. I knew, Connor said finally, his voice hoarse. I found your mother 2 years before I met you. I was searching for my birth family, and I tracked her down. When I discovered she had a daughter, I wanted to see what my life might have been like if I'd been kept. I wanted to meet my half-sister. I never planned for us to fall in love, Emily. That part was real. You knew? Emily stood up, backing away from him. You knew the whole time that my mother was your birth mother, and you dated me anyway? You proposed to me. Were you ever going to tell me? I wanted to, Connor said desperately. But the longer it went on, the harder it became. I love you, Emily. That's real. Everything between us is real. What about you and my mother? Emily's voice was shaking. My father has photos of you two at a hotel. Tell me that's not real too. Connor looked down. Your mother and I. We were struggling with the secret. We needed someone to talk to, and we only had each other. It became complicated. Complicated? Emily laughed, a harsh, broken sound. You slept with my mother, your birth mother. Do you understand how sick that is? We tried to stop, Connor said weakly. We knew it was wrong. How many times? Emily demanded. How many times did you sleep with her? Connor didn't answer. Get out, Emily screamed. Get out of this house. Get out of my life. Connor stood, reaching for her. Emily, please. Don't touch me, she recoiled. Don't ever touch me again. The wedding is off. We're done. I never want to see you again. Connor looked at me, then at Nathan, then back at Emily. Whatever he saw in our faces told him there was no coming back from this. He left without another word. Emily collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I moved to hold her, and for the first time since I'd told her the truth, she let me. She cried for hours, great heaving sobs that shook her entire body. Nathan sat on her other side, and we held our daughter as her world fell apart. I was going to marry him, she kept saying. I was going to marry him in 12 days. How did I not know? How did I not see? You couldn't have known, I said, stroking her hair like I used to when she was little. They hid it well. They lied to everyone, including you. This isn't your fault. Where's Mom? Emily asked finally. Where is she? Still at her sister's, I assume, I said. Do you want to talk to her? I never want to see her again. Emily's voice was hollow. She knew who Connor was. And she let me date him. She let me fall in love with him. She was sleeping with him. My mother slept with the man I was going to marry, who turned out to be her son. How do I ever come back from knowing that? I had no answer for her. Over the next few days, the full extent of the nightmare unfolded. Rebecca tried to contact Emily repeatedly, but Emily blocked her number. Connor sent desperate emails that Emily deleted without reading. The wedding venue was canceled. Deposits were lost. Invitations that had been sent out had to be followed up with cancellation notices. Emily moved back home for a while. She took a leave of absence from her job as a pediatric nurse. She spent most days in her old bedroom, emerging only for meals that she barely touched. Nathan was a rock throughout everything. He handled the logistics of canceling the wedding. He screened Emily's calls. He ran interference when Rebecca tried to show up at the house, which I refused to let her enter. I filed for divorce. 32 years of marriage, ended because of betrayal so deep I still couldn't fully comprehend it. My lawyer was shocked when I explained the situation. Even in his 20 years of practice, he'd never heard anything quite like it. The legal proceedings revealed more disturbing details. Connor had been in therapy for years, struggling with abandonment issues stemming from his adoption. His therapist had explicitly warned him that pursuing a relationship with his birth mother's daughter was unhealthy and potentially dangerous to everyone involved. He'd ignored that advice. Rebecca, in her own therapy sessions that came out during the divorce proceedings, admitted that she'd known the affair with Connor was wrong but couldn't stop herself. She described it as trying to make up for lost time, trying to be the mother she'd never been able to be. Her therapist diagnosed her with unresolved trauma around giving up her child and complicated grief that had manifested in deeply inappropriate ways. None of the psychological explanations made it hurt less. About 3 weeks after everything fell apart, Emily came downstairs one morning and actually ate breakfast. It was just toast and coffee, but it was the first meal she'd finished in days. "I want to go back to work," she announced. "I can't stay in this house forever, feeling sorry for myself." "Take all the time you need, sweetheart," I said. "I've taken enough time. Kids at the hospital need me, and I need to feel useful again." She paused, stirring her coffee. "Dad, I owe you an apology. When you first told me what you saw, I didn't believe you. I said horrible things. I accused you of trying to ruin my wedding. I'm so sorry. You don't need to apologize. You were in shock. You loved him, and you trusted your mother. Of course you didn't want to believe it, but you were telling me the truth, and I chose to believe Connor's lies instead. He'd been planting seeds, making you look unstable, making me doubt you, and I fell for it." Tears welled up in her eyes. "You're my father. You've never lied to me about anything important in your entire life, and I believed a man I'd known for 3 years over you. I'm so ashamed. Emily, look at me." I waited until she met my eyes. "You have nothing to be ashamed of. You were manipulated by 2 people who should have protected you. Your mother and Connor both betrayed your trust in the worst possible way. The fact that you believed someone you loved doesn't make you weak or foolish. It makes you human." She smiled, weakly. "When did you become so wise?" "About 30 seconds ago," I said, making her laugh for the first time in weeks. Nathan came home that afternoon with news. "I ran into one of Connor's colleagues downtown," he said. "Apparently, Connor resigned from his firm. Word got around about what happened, and the gossip was making it impossible for him to work there. He's moving to Montreal." Emily absorbed this information quietly. "Good," she finally said. "I hope I never see him again." "What about Mom?" Nathan asked. "Have you thought about whether you want any contact with her?" "I don't know," Emily admitted. "Part of me wants to scream at her. Part of me wants to understand how she could do this, and part of me just wants to pretend she never existed." She looked at me. "Dad, do you think I should talk to her?" "I think that's entirely up to you," I said carefully. "She's your mother, and whatever you decide, Nathan and I will support you. But you don't owe her anything, including forgiveness." Emily nodded slowly. "Maybe someday, but not now. Right now, I need to heal." The healing process was slow. Emily went back to work, throwing herself into her job with renewed intensity. Nathan finished his MBA and got a position at a consulting firm. I focused on my architectural practice, finding solace in the clean lines and logical structures of buildings. About 2 months after everything fell apart, Emily went on a coffee date with a man she'd met at the hospital. His name was Owen, and he was a paramedic. When she told me about it, she was nervous. "I know it's too soon," she said, "but Owen is kind, and he makes me laugh, and I thought maybe coffee wouldn't hurt." "You deserve to be happy," I told her. "Just take your time. There's no rush." The coffee date went well. Then there was another, and another. Owen was indeed kind, with an easy smile and a straightforward manner. More importantly, when Emily eventually told him about what had happened with Connor and Rebecca, Owen listened without judgment and simply said, "That must have been incredibly painful. I'm glad you trusted me enough to tell me." 6 months after the catastrophe, Emily moved into her own apartment. It was a small place in Yaletown, bright and modern, with large windows overlooking False Creek. "A fresh start," she said as we helped her unpack. "No memories of Connor here. No shadows. Nathan had been dating someone too, a woman named Claire he'd met through work. She was smart and funny, and she fit into our family easily. As for Rebecca, I only saw her once after I filed for divorce. We met at a mediation session with our lawyers to divide assets. She looked smaller somehow, worn down by guilt and loss. "How's Emily?" she asked as we were leaving. "She's healing," I said. "No thanks to you." "I know I can't undo what I've done," Rebecca said quietly. "I know I've lost her, probably forever. But will you tell her something for me?" "That depends on what it is." "Tell her I'm sorry. Tell her that I loved her more than anything, and I never meant for any of this to happen. Tell her that the mother she knew before all this, that woman was real. This nightmare doesn't erase all the good years we had." I looked at this woman I'd spent 3 decades with. You don't get to rewrite history. You don't get to separate the good Rebecca from the one who betrayed her daughter. They're the same person. You made choices, terrible choices, and Emily is living with the consequences. If you truly loved her, you would have told the truth from the beginning. I walked away and never spoke to her again. A year after the day I caught Rebecca and Connor together, Emily invited me and Nathan to dinner at her apartment. Owen was there too, and the four of us sat around her small dining table, eating pasta and salad. I have an announcement, Emily said, smiling. I've been accepted into a nurse practitioner program at UBC. I'm going back to school. We congratulated her, toasting with wine glasses. And there's something else, she continued. Owen and I are moving in together. More congratulations and hugs. As I watched my daughter, happy and excited about her future, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. Later that evening, as Nathan and I were driving home, he said, "She's really doing okay, isn't she?" "She is," I agreed. "She's stronger than she knows." "What about you, Dad? Are you okay?" I thought about it. I'm getting there. Some days are harder than others. But I have my work, I have you and Emily, and I have my integrity intact. That's more than Rebecca and Connor can say. Do you think she'll ever forgive Mom? Maybe someday. Forgiveness is a process, not a destination. But even if she forgives, things will never be the same. Some betrayals are too deep to fully heal. 2 years after everything fell apart, I received an invitation in the mail. Emily and Owen were getting married. A small ceremony, just close friends and family, at a vineyard on Vancouver Island. The wedding was beautiful, simple, and genuine, in a way Emily's first wedding never would have been. As I walked my daughter down the aisle, I felt tears in my eyes, not for what she'd lost, but for what she'd found. A good man who loved her honestly, a future built on truth. When the officiant asked if anyone objected to the marriage, there was only peaceful silence. No twisted secrets, no hidden agendas, just two people who loved each other, making a promise in front of people who supported them. At the reception, Emily pulled me aside. "Thank you, Dad," she said, "for believing me when I couldn't believe myself, for not giving up when I pushed you away, for showing me what real love and loyalty look like." "You never have to thank me for that," I said, hugging her tight. "I'm your father. I'll always be in your corner, even when you don't want me there." She laughed, wiping tears from her eyes. "I know, and that makes me the luckiest daughter in the world." As I watched Emily and Owen dance their first dance as husband and wife, Nathan came to stand beside me. "You did good, Dad," he said quietly. "When everything fell apart, you held us together." "We held each other together," I corrected. "Without you finding the evidence, uncovering the truth, Emily might have married Connor. The thought of that still makes me sick." "Do you think Connor ever really loved her?" Nathan asked. "Or was it all about connecting with Mom?" "I think human emotions are complicated," I said. "I think Connor probably did love Emily in his own twisted way. But his need for Rebecca, his abandonment issues, his inability to be honest, those things poisoned any genuine feeling he might have had. Love without honesty isn't really love at all. It's just need wearing a mask." Nathan nodded thoughtfully. "That's actually pretty profound, Dad. 2 years of therapy will do that to you," I said wryly. The truth was, I had been in therapy since the divorce. Working through the betrayal, the loss of a 32-year marriage, the violation of trust. It had all required professional help to process. My therapist helped me understand that Rebecca's actions weren't a reflection of my worth as a husband or a person. Her choices were about her own demons. Her unresolved trauma around giving up Connor. Her inability to set appropriate boundaries. Understanding it didn't make it hurt less, but it helped me move forward. 3 years after the catastrophe, I sold the house in Kitsilano. It had too many memories, too many ghosts. I bought a smaller condo downtown with a view of the mountains and the ocean. I dated occasionally, nothing serious. But it was nice to remember that I was still a person beyond being someone's father or someone's ex-husband. Emily and Owen had a baby girl, my first grandchild. They named her Grace, and holding her in my arms for the first time, I felt something shift in my chest. A sense of renewal, of life continuing despite the darkness we'd been through. "Do you think we should tell her the story someday?" Emily asked me one afternoon as we watched Grace sleep in her bassinet. "When she's older? About what happened with Connor and Rebecca?" "That's up to you," I said. But if you do tell her, make sure you also tell her about resilience, about how you survived something that should have broken you, and you came out stronger. That's the real story, Emily. Not the betrayal, but the healing. Emily smiled. When did you become such a wise old man? I'm not that old, I protested, making her laugh. Nathan married Claire in a quiet ceremony 2 years after Emily's wedding. They settled in North Vancouver, and Nathan continued to thrive in his career. He never lost his protective instinct toward Emily and me, always checking in, always making sure we were okay. One evening, about 4 years after everything fell apart, Nathan and I were having dinner together. Just the two of us, catching up on life. I ran into someone who saw Mom recently, Nathan said carefully. She's living in Kelowna now, working as a receptionist at a medical clinic. How is she? I asked, surprising myself by caring. Apparently, she's in therapy. She's been trying to get sober. I guess alcohol became a problem after everything fell apart. She asked about Emily and me, but the person I talked to didn't give her any information. Do you want to see her? I asked. Nathan was quiet for a long time. I don't know. Part of me wants to understand why she did what she did. Part of me thinks there's no explanation that would make it make sense. What about you? Do you ever think about reaching out? No, I said honestly. Whatever Rebecca and I had ended the day I caught her with Connor. I've grieved that loss, and I've moved on. She made choices that destroyed our family. And while I hope she's getting help and finding some kind of peace, that's not my responsibility anymore. Nathan nodded. I think that's healthy, Dad. I think you've handled all of this with more grace than most people could. I had no choice but to handle it, I said. You and Emily needed me to be strong, so I was. But make no mistake, there were plenty of nights I cried myself to sleep, plenty of days I wanted to just stop feeling anything. The difference between surviving and thriving is showing up every day even when you don't want to. As I look back on everything that happened, I've learned some hard truths about life and human nature. I've learned that people you trust can betray you in ways you never imagined possible. I've learned that secrets, no matter how well-intentioned, will eventually destroy you. I've learned that honesty, even painful honesty, is always better than comfortable lies. But I've also learned about resilience, about the human capacity to heal, even from the deepest wounds, about the strength that comes from facing terrible truths instead of hiding from them. Emily didn't just survive what happened to her. She thrived. She went back to school, advanced her career, found genuine love with Owen, became a mother. She took the broken pieces of her life and built something beautiful from them. Nathan stood by his family when we needed him most, using his intelligence and determination to uncover the truth that set us free, even though that truth was painful. And I learned that I was stronger than I thought I was, that I could lose a marriage, face betrayal, and still wake up the next morning and choose to keep going. If I could go back and change what happened, would I? Of course. The pain that Emily went through was almost unbearable to watch. The betrayal cut deep into all of us. But I can't change the past, so instead, I choose to learn from it. I've learned to trust my instincts. When something feels wrong, it probably is. I've learned that loyalty and honesty are the foundations of any real relationship. I've learned that blood doesn't make a family. Love and truth do. Nathan isn't my biological son, but he's as much my son as if he were. He proved that when he stood by me and helped uncover the truth. I've learned that healing isn't linear. Emily has good days and bad days. Some days, she's fine. Other days, something will remind her of Connor or her mother, and she'll get quiet and withdrawn. That's okay. Healing takes as long as it takes. I've learned that forgiveness is complex. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive Rebecca for what she did, but I've reached a place where I don't actively wish her harm. I hope she's getting the help she needs. I hope she's found some kind of peace. But that doesn't mean I want her in my life, and it doesn't mean Emily needs to either. Most importantly, I've learned that truth, no matter how painful, is always better than lies. If I hadn't walked in when I did, if I hadn't trusted my eyes over my daughter's initial disbelief, if Nathan hadn't been brave enough to dig for evidence, Emily would have married Connor. She would have built a life with him, possibly had children with him, all while not knowing the twisted truth of who he really was. The truth destroyed the life she thought she had, but it saved her from a far worse future. Sometimes love means breaking someone's heart to save their life. As a father, that's the hardest lesson I've ever learned. But watching Emily now, happy and healthy with Owen and Grace, I know it was worth it. If you find yourself in a situation where you discover a terrible truth that will hurt someone you love, don't stay silent. Don't convince yourself that ignorance is bliss. It isn't. Lies have a way of growing in the darkness, becoming more destructive the longer they're hidden. Tell the truth, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Trust your eyes, trust your instincts, and trust that people are stronger than they appear. They can survive the truth. What they can't survive is building their life on a foundation of lies. And if you're the one who's been betrayed, know this. The pain you feel right now won't last forever. It will fade. The scars will always be there, but they won't always hurt this much. You will heal. You will trust again. You will love again. The betrayal doesn't define you. How you rise from it does. My name is Michael Harrison. I'm 67 years old now. I have a successful architectural practice, 2 children who I'm incredibly proud of, and a granddaughter who brings more joy into my life than I ever thought possible after everything fell apart. I survived something that could have destroyed me. We all did. And if we can do it, so can you.